Welcome to the OC Politics Show, keeping politics bipartisan, local, and on the level.
That's you, brother.
Hey, sorry everybody, I'm running a little bit late today. You know, this is our second show, and so we had a little bit of technical difficulties in the beginning, but thanks for hanging in there if you're still out there waiting for me. So, what are we doing today? Whoa. So, how is the reopening going to occur? Right. And that's the big question that we have right now is, you know, everybody has been on a great pause for a while here. I think we're moving into our 7th week, something like that. And, you know, the idea is, how do we reopen? So yesterday I went, it was Mother's Day yesterday. So all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day, a day late. And my wife wanted to have food from the Yard House. And, you know, like we ordered it and went and got it, and it was good. It was great. It's cool that they're able to still stay open, obviously with less staff. And man, it was busy over there, to be honest with you. The poor staff were running around. I think there was like 3 working. They had the cook, they have the manager was doing the bartending stuff, and then they had the girl at the front doing all the register work. And anyway, so they're running back and forth. And, you know, people, I think for the most part, were pretty courteous and patient about what was happening. And I was talking to the manager when I went to get my stuff. I said, "Hey, what are you guys going to do, you know, when it reopens?" And there's a bunch of different things they're going to be doing. One is they're going to have less people there. And if you're not eating like if you're just hanging out, you have to have a mask on in the store. And that comes to the second part of why I'm bringing the story up. So they're going to be, you have to wear a mask. You have to go there to hang out. And then obviously the workers are going to have masks on and gloves. They're going to be constantly cleaning. A couple different things they're going to be doing specifically for like non-touched surfaces and whatnot. And so what's it mean here when you, for the rest of us? Well, there's this lady the other day, she posted this thing on Facebook or YouTube or whatever. She made a video, and a friend of mine who I went to school with, she's a manager at one of the Trader Joe's, and this is how I got to see the video. But I think the woman who made the video actually posted it, not Trader Joe's. So this lady went like crazy. She just went nuts because Trader Joe's policy is if you're in a store, you have to wear a mask. And so they asked her to leave. And of course, this woman doesn't show this. You could see some stuff on the floor, but she went nuts and started throwing things. Trader Joe's called the police for disturbance of peace issue. And in the video, the police never showed up. I don't know if they did or not. But the thing is that people feel that they have I mean, they don't have to wear masks, I suppose, but companies, private companies, have the right to make whatever rules that they want to make. Excuse me. And so that being said, well, what's the reopening going to look like for the rest of us? Well, there's a couple of things here that's going on. So let's read the headlines real quick. So coronavirus shuts down and puts Orange County cities on precarious financial footing. And that's really what we're going to talk about mostly today, but I want to kind of go over a couple other things. Orange County Supervisors Wagner's and Steel's statement supporting Nomads Canteen. So that's crazy part about it is that the we already have restaurants and whatnot just opening. You know, so there's full bar, the bar fully opened. Los Alamitos anti-sanctuary city fight fizzles out. That's just thrown in there because I know it's not necessarily on the topic that we're doing today, but I thought that was kind of important to discuss. We'll get into that in a minute. And Newport Beach city councilman, who I personally know, is suing Governor Gavin Newsom over the beach closures. And it's a little bit, it's not as straightforward as they think it is. So let's get into it. So Los Alamitos sanctuary cities fight fizzles out. So Los Al Huntington Beach, both of them said, well, if you the state becomes a sanctuary state, we're going to do the opposite. If cities can do sanctuary stuff, we're going to do the opposite. And I went to court, and it looks like the ACLU, along with a couple other people or organizations, sued both Huntington Beach and Los Al. Huntington Beach lost in court, and so Los Alamitos just dropped everything and just changed their status because with HB losing, Los Alamitos figures that they're not going to be able to win as well. And the question I have on that, whether you agree with it or not, is if if cities can be a sanctuary city, why can't cities be anti-sanctuary? Just out of principle. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of an interesting concept here, but anyway, it's just a different political climate there for Orange County, and they both lost, so they're kind of moving on with that. Then you have on the other end of it, you have cities that are fighting the county sheriff's department because they have contracts with ICE, and they don't want the contracts with ICE and whatnot. So I don't think that story is going to go away anytime soon. And with all the COVID stuff that's going on, I think those stories are getting buried. But as it is, this is getting buried with this one too, because we're going to move on into our COVID stuff. So I'm going to kind of put these stories together. You got Orange County Supervisors Wagner and Steel, and they made a statement supporting Nomads Canteen. This is down in San Clemente, and I don't know if you guys have seen the video or not, but people have they opened it up completely. I think it was 2 weekends ago, and yeah, they're serving beers. People are sitting on the patio drinking beers. I think I talked about this last week as well. But what's this mean? So with the supervisors coming out saying, hey, this is what, they support them in doing so. Is there now going to be a political battle between those that want to have a reopening sooner than later? You see the protests going on in Huntington Beach and other areas where there are people out there with silly signs. I think the signs are just there just for silly, things like I want a haircut. I don't think that's why they're protesting, but that's just making signs to get a point across. People want to have the economy open up. Excuse me. And what's it mean? So when we're talking about the economy opening up, it's not the stock market, right? And I don't think you would, if you talk to the average person on the street about what they mean by the economy opening up, it's not about the 401k, or it's not about the stock market. Well, that might be affected in some ways, but most of them are talking about specifically just wanting to go back to work, and because they're being furloughed. I mean, I personally know, and I'm sure you guys do too, people that have been furloughed, and people who have been laid off completely. A lot of my neighbor, like I said before, owns a restaurant. He had to lay his staff off, and he said the only way he could do that is the only way that he could get them money is actually by cutting their job, so they could apply for unemployment. And how is that good for anything, right? And now I'm kind of split, right? Because I understand on the emergency management side, the public health side, why we're doing what we're doing. And realistically, I mean, I'm not a doctor. I understand what we're doing with public health side stuff, and I have to agree with some of the steps that they took. Now the question is how do we keep people with working and whatnot? And so now it's not just affecting the everyday guy, right? I mean, it is affecting the everyday guy, but not just them. It's also affecting the cities financially. So there are cities that are laying off workers, right? Brea is expected in a large gap and just laid off of 89 part-time workers. Laguna Beach, they have a $12 million shortfall, furloughed some of their workers and delayed hiring a fire marshal. Costa Mesa, hit by $18.5 million gap, have delayed in a bunch of different stuff, like new bike lanes, which I don't know if that's here nor there, traffic signals, other street improvements. Irvine, they have a $22 million loss, and they're keeping several jobs vacant right now. And they're also considering potentially doing some furloughs and layoffs, or cutting positions in total. So the tax dollars are from retail and tourism, I should say, terrorism. Sorry, from retail and tourism, and people. We have like destination malls, if you will, here in Orange County. What's that mean? At South Coast Plaza, for instance, people come from all over the place to shop at South Coast Plaza. You have people coming from all over the place to go to Fashion Island and Newport Beach. So it's not just the people locally that are using that are shopping and bringing tax money in. It's also people coming from all over the place. Obviously, the hotels, the bed tax, and those have been greatly impacted on how cities are able to make money, and it's across the board. It's impacting things. If you start having a city in that I know, I was going to say Northern California, but it's not really Northern California. It's Central California. They have cut 460 jobs. They are looking at doing a reduction in pay, in the public safety pay, of 10%. And there's the people that are able to retire at this point, or close to, they don't want to take that cut. They're just going to retire, but they're not going to rehire. So you're going to have a huge gap in those firefighters and police officers who have retired. A small town, so it's not like they can absorb that cut. So those guys retire. They're not going to rehire. So now you have public safety concerns with law and fire. Now, can the county make up for that loss by supporting them with mutual aid and whatnot? I mean, that's to be said. But the point is that community is going to be changing drastically. So what does the restart look like for us? How do we do this in a way that is safe and in a way that works for everybody? My position here with the restart is we need to do it incrementally, because you can't just flip the switch, right? We turned it off, right? Pretty much with a flick of a switch, and so people are at home, schools are closed, people are laid off, money's not coming in right away. So when a business starts to reopen, they might not have the capital to be able to pay for their employees to come back right away. So they're going to have to incrementally bring people back in, whether they're just going to muddle through this and just kind of say, okay, I'm going to bring in 3 people, and as we bring more money, like rebuilding your business back up again, bring in the fourth person in and whatnot, and building back up like this, because it's just going to be hard, right? And this is stuff that it's not like I'm making this up. I've talked to business owners. I talked to people who are running these things, and their concerns are this, right? And how do we do it in a way that makes sense for everybody? I think that even with the Nomads Cantina, or Canteen, they opened up in a way where they brought just a few of their employees back. They were keeping everything very clean. They were practicing public health restrictions that they've heard, but they were also confused, all right, because there are different stories coming from different portions of government. So you got the state government saying one thing, you got the local county saying another, and you got the local health officials saying something else. So they're doing their best to figure out what the heck is going on and how to make it work. Talking to the manager over at the Yard House yesterday, same thing. I mean, his stuff is coming, obviously there's a little bit bigger of a business. Their stuff is coming from corporate, but he said that they're even kind of a little confused on what the real rules are. So they're going a little bit more conservative on their actions than not. Yeah, I asked him regarding people standing in the waiting room or the waiting area. It's not a room, right? When they're waiting for the table. And he's like, yeah, because they're going to really try to restrict that. And he didn't really have an answer of how. And I'm going back to what I kind of brought up before, is maybe we're going to have to go to reservations where before you there's no waiting area. You know, you have your reservation. You're supposed to be there at 7. You show up, at 7 o'clock, and your table's waiting for you. You're not hanging out with anybody. It's gonna really make the idea of going to a restaurant like the Yard House, which is a place to socialize and meet people and whatever, is really gonna change. I wonder what travel's gonna be like, right? At the airports. So, I don't know if you've gone to an airport restaurant and you have everybody kind of sitting around. What's that going to look like specifically with the coronavirus, or the coronavirus, but with the reopening? Are they going to have people sitting on top of each other like they used to? Those things like this. Now I know the airplanes have changed already, where they're removing the middle seat, or in some cases they're flipping the middle seat backwards, so you're going to be flying the wrong direction, basically. I think that's kind of interesting, as well. So those are the questions that we have. What does that new opening look like? So coming over here to Newport Beach City Councilman is personally suing Gavin Newsom. He's not doing it as the city, and I think that's an interesting take that they have on that. The idea is that he feels that Gavin Newsom overstepped his bounds. Again, we talked about this a little bit the other day. Overstepped his bounds with beach closures that are targeting Orange County only. And he Kevin's a little is more conservative on things, and he has been asking for why we're doing this and why we haven't lifted the lockdown before earlier, because the stuff that is coming out, the science that's coming out, isn't necessarily supporting lockdown staying longer. And he understands that it needs to be, again, a process, right? A process of moving things forward, but we need to get the green light at some point to start that process. And so he is pushing this forward. He's saying that some of the reports that are coming out from the news was not necessarily correct. Some of the different angles, because the aerial photo of Newport Beach showed people really kind of doing social distancing as much as you can on the beach. They weren't sitting on top of each other, although if you took it from the ground, it looked like everybody was sitting on top of each other. So that's kind of his case that he has, that he's trying to build. So anyway, that's kind of the highlights of what's going on here in California, or California too, but in Orange County. And I don't know, there's a lot of steps that have to be taken. The thing that I really think that needs to happen before we do anything, before we unpause us, right, when we do the restart, is I think all the counties have to get together, talking to the governor, talking to at the state level of what this is going to look like. Because the idea of having LA County with a whole bunch of different rules, within Orange County and San Diego County, just doesn't work, right? It just doesn't work. I mean, where I live in Orange County is not too far away from LA County. If you think about Seal Beach specifically, I mean, there's a little road, two little bridges that bring you right into Long Beach, which is LA County. Matter of fact, some people think that Seal Beach is LA County. So and so much so in Seal Beach, it's interesting, is you have to go through Long Beach to get to parts of Seal Beach. So we can't have this piecemeal rules that are coming down specifically for the reopen. We have to talk about this. We have to come to a consensus of what the reopening is going to look and how it's going to work. I know outside of the rules of how many people are inside of a building, those could be specific to the county, I suppose. But the overall arching way of how we're going to reopen, what it's going to look like, what are the rules going to be look like, because you can't confuse businesses, you can't confuse the business owners, you can't confuse the public on how we do this, because it just won't work then. When Orange County opened their beaches, and whether it was right or wrong, there's like 80,000 people came to Orange County to go to the beach. A lot of them came from the city or LA County, right? because LA County beaches were closed. And people wanted to go to the beach, so they streamed down here to go to the beach, and because LA County beaches weren't open. That's the type of stuff I'm talking about. If we do it by piecemeal, it's going to confuse everybody, and it's not good for anyone, and it's not good for cohesiveness. So anyway, everybody, it was a pleasure talking to you this morning. Sorry about the late start, and we will see you next week.